Thanks, you guys, for being here, for your service. Thanks for this morning's briefing as well. It was really important, and it was interesting, at least the parts I understood, and I was encouraged, so thank you. Secretary Calvelli and General Thompson, I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics that's under your direct command. That's, of course, the Parks Radar facility at Cavalier. And I did ask General Raymond and General Brown about this last week. You might have heard that or watched it. If not, I'm going to ask you the same question anyway. I noticed that it's not funded for in the budget, the modernization. And I brought it up because I'm concerned because this year's budget documents say that this radar has a, quote, high risk that equipment failures will cause unacceptable mission downtime. And I don't want that to happen. I don't think you want that to happen. It is a 50-year-old radar that's doing important work. And I know there's an analog to digital modernization effort that the program office is looking at, and General Raymond told us the Space Force would address the parks issue in the coming budget years. I just want to make sure you're aware of the precarious situation that Cavalier seems to be in, and do you agree that this important 50-year technology needs a complete overhaul, if not this year, soon? Each of you. If you want to speak to Parks Radar in general, that'd be fine.
Yes, sir, Senator. I will absolutely say, first of all, it does fill a critical role in our missile warning enterprise today. Part of the assessment, and we need to sustain it for that role into the future. Part of what we're looking at in that regard as well is, as we look at advancing threats, as we look at hyperglide vehicles, as we look at fractional orbital bombardment systems and the ability to basically fly around the South Pole to be able to attack the United States, we're in the process of understanding what the future missile warning and missile defense or tracking architecture needs to look like, and the role that parks may play in that. We're still doing that assessment, but certainly in the near term must be sustained. The other thing I'll say is, and it's some of the discussion I had with Senator Kelly, it plays a vital role in space surveillance today as well, and we need to ensure that that capability remains.
All right, thank you. I want to spend a little time now on SDA, because I know that we're at that moment here in a few months when it gets rolled in, when we set up Space Force. Of course, one of the goals was, and you all are doing well at it, is streamlining acquisition, obviously speeding up R&D, all of those important things that you're here to talk about. But SDA, when we stood that up in 2021, it really, we were noting the importance of this and of developing, preserving really an independent culture, which I think is best for innovation. So now once it gets rolled in, maybe you guys could help me understand your commitment to that SDA will preserve at least some of its independence and autonomy while it also does important work for you and the Joint Force, of course. If you have a sense of how that might be managed, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, actually, you're thinking along the same way I am. I'm excited about SDA coming on board. I think they're doing some really neat stuff with their proliferated LEO system in Tranche 1 for the communication satellites. I think it's going to add new capabilities quickly because they're doing things on 2-year centers. I think it's going to add resiliency to the architecture. I like their culture. I'm looking forward to them coming on board, and I don't see any major changes in terms of how they do business or their culture.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Continuing along that topic then for a moment in their culture of innovation and rapid acquisition, MTA, Middle Tier Acquisition Pathway, was designed to facilitate rapid prototyping and fielding of new threat-driven capabilities in timeframes not met by the traditional requirements process. Do you support granting SDA Middle Tier Acquisition Authority so that they can continue to move fast then?
Yeah, from what I've seen, I think on the Space Force side, there's about 8 or 9 programs that are using 804 authorities. It's allowed them to go a little bit quicker. We talked earlier about the fact that speed is really what this nation needs, and so yes, I would support them having 804 authorities.
Well, maybe since you're on such a roll, and I'm tracking with you, man, maybe talk a little bit more about the procurement enterprise and the reorganization and how you see that playing out. So we can, I always like to say move at the speed of China. I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it or not, but I just know we need to be fast. Yeah,
so I'm still getting my arms around it. And so clearly, and under my portfolio now is Space Systems Command. Then you have SDA coming on board on October 1st, and then you've got Space RCO. You know, all three are unique in their own way, and all three have sort of their own unique characteristics. I am not a big proponent of reorgs. I just think they're boring, they're messy, and they get nothing accomplished. So I'm looking forward to actually having these three separate elements in the portfolio and make sure they have the authorities, responsibilities, and we have the right things in place to go ahead and gain that speed and take advantage of each one's distinct strengths.
Well, Secretary Plum, I'm out of time, but I was going to ask you basically the same question about cyber and probably the role of commercial and the integration of all of that. If you have a quick answer or just a thought, that'd be helpful.
You know, Senator, I think that the cyber piece here, if that's what you're asking, is really important, and I don't think we fully have our hands around it. Defense in depth for satellite architecture is hard, for ground stations is hard, and I'm in a lot of meetings about this where we have to break through this idea that there's just a defensive perimeter, and people know this now, but getting to this is a journey.
Well, be open with us as to how we can help, whether it's a policy issue or an oversight issue, or because we need that culture cultivated. But thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.